For years, Joseph Herscher has been fastidiously building incredibly complex machines to simplify his life. They turn newspaper pages for him. They cut his hair. And they serve him cake.
I am Joseph, and I make useless machines.
Of course, utility is in the eye of the beholder.
And it burns a string, which releases this hammer, which shoots the asparagus.
But in an age of computer graphics and slick video editing, Joseph's single continuous shot videos of wacky contraptions stand out for their intricately kinetic lo-fi whimsy.
And it's delivered to my open mouth. Machines are usually designed to be as efficient as possible, and to then go and make a machine that's super inefficient and playful, there's something sort of delightful and absurd about that.
His creations have delighted millions on his YouTube channel, Joseph's Machines.
The first machine I ever made was to pour a cup of tea for my roommates, and it would take so long to run that the tea would be cold. So that didn't really work. But we filmed it and I put it on YouTube, and that was the one that went viral, and that's how I ended up with this as a career.
Machines often start with a small personal irritation.
I hate always trying to get the last bit of ketchup out of a bottle.
So you know when the sauce gets stuck at the bottom of the bottle? Annoying, right?
So that motivates me, like, there's got to be a better way.
Here we go.
And then I remember one day thinking, oh, I know, if I attach it to a fan and then spin the fan. So I made a video for that.
Perfect!
Joseph, who grew up in New Zealand, was fascinated by problem-solving machines from a young age.
Growing up, I had no siblings, and I would spend hours and hours on the floor of my room making contraptions. And for me, that was the best way to spend a day. On my own, solving problems, making crazy stuff happen. I'm so happy that as an adult, I still get to do that. And I still get to play every day.
Now he's working on his latest contraption.
I'm making a lunchtime feeding machine so that I can keep working through lunch without taking a break and get more done.
Here's the plan.
It starts with me doing work as per normal on my computer, and when I pull a handle, it triggers a ball that knocks a Brussels sprout to start rolling, and that Brussels sprout rolls into my mouth, and then that triggers a hot dog to swing into my mouth on a pendulum. There's a bow and arrow that shoots an asparagus spear into my mouth. And finally, some soup on a train pours down my throat. And all of this happens without me having to actually move positions, so it's very convenient.
But actually making the machines, not so convenient.
Basically, all the food items are the worst things to work with. They're just terrible for mechanical, repetitive actions, because they're all slightly different. And like as they dry out, they start to change. Like the bread dries out, then it won't bend properly, and then the hot dog bounces out of it. It's just a whole lot of problems. And I tell myself this every time, like, don't work with food again. But then I do it. I don't know why.
Why?
To make his absurd machines, Joseph starts with sketches to plan out how they'll work in his tiny New York City apartment.
This is me figuring out the exact angles of the bowl of soup so that when the clock ticks, it'll lift it correctly into my mouth.
Then it's time to find all of the parts.
This is where I buy all my materials, and I live upstairs, so it's very convenient. I spend a lot of time foraging for objects in the neighborhood. Very time consuming. If I know I need a certain cup to fit from here to there, I'll go to every 99-cent store on my block, of which there's 12, till I find exactly the perfect cup. Sometimes I'll spend like a whole day looking for one object.
Even with the right item, it takes a lot of time to perfect a machine.
And then I'll build the thing, and that might take, I don't know, a few hours, and then I'll spend days testing it. Like, that's the longest part. Trial and error. Failure after failure after failure.
Some of those failures are pretty epic.
The page turner was quite stressful. It boils water, which then steams and goes into a sponge, and the sponge gets heavier. And so I thought I'd be smart and use acetone instead of water, because it boils much more quickly, because no one likes to watch water boil. And I tested that out, and of course acetone is very flammable, and I didn't really think that through. And so it caught fire, and then the sponge caught fire and exploded, and then there was like sponge on fire everywhere, and then the whole machine caught fire.
Even without infernos, getting a machine to work with clockwork precision takes a long time.
It usually takes me about a month to make a machine. It's a time-consuming process.
But the payoff? Well, just watch for yourself. There's the tricky Brussels sprout. Joseph had to weigh each one and find the best rolling vegetables. Here's the hot dog. Joseph has to aim the hot dog back to the magnet right here. It's a bit of human choreography in the midst of the machine. Finally, the soup. It's actually water, food coloring, and a thickening agent, which Joseph finds easier to drink than real soup. And after a hearty meal, it's back to the drawing board to come up with the next marvelous machine.